everybody, to the Dustin Cameron Experiments. This is experiment number 6, and today we have in the lab my good buddy, Audie Morris. How you doing?
I'm well. Thank you so much for inviting me on your podcast.
Oh, man, no problem. I've been waiting a while to get you on here.
Yeah, it's been, we've
Weeks?
had a lot of really great, well, yeah, it was crazy. You know, we're in the middle of COVID and holiday season and busy schedules, and so we've been trying to do this for about 3 weeks now.
Yeah.
But the moment you said you wanted me on, I told you
Here we are.
We'd figure it out. Yeah.
And here we are. So tell us a little bit about yourself to give the audience a background of who you are.
Sure. So I just turned 40. I have a 13-year-old daughter. I'm a chef, and I've lived in South Texas almost all of my life. Not quite. I spent 3 years in Colorado, 3 years in California, but the majority of it's been in Texas.
All right. So how long have you been a chef for?
So your guest David Graham and I went to culinary school about 15 years ago. We went to.
Did y'all go together?
Yes. So.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
It's like a trade school.
Yeah.
So
I wanted to do it.
You get an associate's degree. We went to the Texas Culinary Academy, Le Cordon Bleu in
Le Cordon
Austin.
Bleu.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's a trade school in the sense that you get an associate's degree after 18 months, and every class is either a classroom class or in the kitchen laboratory style class where you spend 5 hours a day cooking, right? And every semester is 6 weeks. So there's a new class of students every 6 weeks.
Oh, wow.
And so David went 6 weeks before I did.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
He was already living in Austin at the time, but
he had some pretty great comments about you, though, whenever
yeah,
he was on. So.
He had some good comments, some not so good. But I'm looking for that smoke, Dave. So if you want to find out who the better chef is, I'm down for it.
Let's smoke it up. Not in that way either. We're talking about chef style. We're going to smoke it up.
Yeah.
Don't get confused.
So, but Dave is the best chef I've ever worked with. I've never seen anybody better with a knife, and we've done some wild shit together when it comes to food. So
I need to figure out how to cook a steak perfectly. I'm still working, instead of asking y'all, I'm working with different pans, with different heats, different cuts, different thickness, different fats, different butters. I'm trying to, because I know that every single one of those has a play in how you cook your steak. And
100%, yeah. And so if I were to make a humble suggestion, I would tell everyone to start off with a heavy bottomed pan, like a cast iron pan.
I just got a cast iron.
Yes, cast iron's nice. And then something that will retain the heat. Yeah. And then flip your steak every 15 seconds.
Oh, wow. That sounds like chicken.
It sounds opposite of the way that they teach people.
Yeah.
But there's this brilliant chef in England. His name's Heston Blumenthal. And this was his technique. He was the first chef to give you reference. He's the first chef to cook with liquid nitrogen.
Oh, no way.
To freeze things instantly.
Oh, that's
He was
awesome.
a chemist before he became a chef. And so he approaches food in a scientific approach. And it actually makes a lot of sense.
Well, food is science, though.
100%. And so his method is every 15 seconds, and then you just keep feeling it. Yeah. And you'll hit your temperature or you won't hit your temperature. The more times you do it, you'll get better at it. I'm a big believer in ribeye.
That's all I eat.
Ribeye is such a forgiving meat. Artie, ribeye is such a forgiving steak because it's so marbled with fat. And so it gives you a little bit of room to play with.
Yeah.
But that's what I do. Back and forth 15 seconds until you like the way it looks on the outside. It feels the way you want a steak to feel. And then, learn from that.
We went to the steakhouse the other day, me and Diana, and they had the bone-in ribeye on special.
That's the best steak in Corpus Christi.
Man. It is. Well, I got it the black and blue style though.
Yeah, I like black and blue too.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But that was the first time I had the bone-in over there.
Yeah, the bone-in is, and it's a great
22 ounces.
Y'all shared it?
No, we both got our own.
Oh, y'all are mean. Yeah, that's awesome.
Heck yeah, we're mean.
No. It's a great steak to share with, but that's a baller move to get both of y'all get one. Bone-in ribeye is the best steak.
Yeah, we spent like $90.
Hey, but it's all about the perceived value. Now
I love it. I'm promoting it.
Yeah, you're on a podcast right now talking about how much you enjoy it.
Oh my God, that is such a delicious.
It's worth
steak.
the money that it comes in.
It's better
they know
than
how to cook steak.
It's better than the one that you'll get over at up in the Omni.
Oh,
the Republic.
Yeah, the Republic.
Yeah.
I haven't had a bone-in ribeye over there, probably because it's cost prohibitive.
Yeah.
Like the cost for that steak at
They had to
Old
really-
Steakhouse is reasonably priced considering.
Yeah, I
what
think
you
it was
get.
like $27 for the
That's a
bone-in.
reasonable price for a 22-ounce bone-in
Yeah.
ribeye.
Yeah, the steak that I had over there at the Republic, like it was very well cooked. I
I'm
mean,
sure.
it was
Yeah.
amazing. But as far as the Black and Blue, the flavor profile that you get from it,
Fantastic.
you know, and it's still tender and it's still juicy, you know, just every bit as the one over at the Republic. It's just a lot cheaper.
Yeah, and you know, it's a Greek-owned family
That's what I heard.
chain of restaurants. So this is like Old Steakhouse was literally it's of Corpus Christi. Like it's from this home. You know, it's not some guy that flew in and with a bunch of money and said, "Let me make a fancy restaurant." This is a family that's been doing food for decades.
Yeah. All right. Well, we got a little bit of that out of the way, so let's go on to today's topic because it's fun.
I'm down.
Oh.
I need to be closer. I got you.
All right. Yeah.
All right.
All right. So
I got you.
we will get this straightened out. I promise. All right. So we're going to talk about aliens today because it's everybody's favorite topic.
I love talking about
Oh
aliens.
my gosh. And we're not talking about, you know, those illegal aliens, you know, that people talk about. No, we're not talking about that.
No, those aren't the
No,
ones. we're
those
gonna
aren't the
talk
ones
about
we're talking
today.
about.
No.
Don't get confused. I'm telling you, we're straight shooters over here.
Mm-hmm.
Don't think about the wrong smoke. Don't think about the wrong aliens.
Right.
We're talking about the little green man, good gray man, maybe blue.
Right.
Depends. So, how do you perceive this phenomenon of believing in aliens? I'm assuming you believe in aliens since we're gonna.
100%. Yeah, there's definitely alien life out there. It is
We're good there.
whether or not we are seeing UFOs. That's debatable, but
That's the first thing most people think about when you say alien is UFO.
right.
So we're gonna talk separately. about
Okay,
that.
right, yeah. So if the question is there life out there? Definitely there is. It's
Right.
almost definitely life out there. And when I was going to school, other stars having planets was a theory.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
We had no actual evidence of it. Now we know from the evidence we've received that almost every star has at least one planet there. And so when you think of billions of stars in a galaxy, billions of galaxies in the viewable universe, there's no question.
Quadrillions of planets.
That there most definitely is life out there, or has been at some point. Are they coming and visiting us? Now you're talking about traversing the actual distance of space. That gets tricky, at least with the science that we understand.
Right. Yeah, the science that we understand doesn't really allow. We're breaking in onto theories of how we might be able to shorten that gap, but we don't have any actual factual evidence or proven evidence to say that we can do this.
Yeah. So if it's moving at a speed, and Einstein's correct, the speed limit of the universe is the speed of light, 186,000 miles a second, and you can't go a mile faster than that.
Otherwise, it's the expansion or something. How does that? Can you explain how?
It's just nothing with mass we have ever observed to be faster than light.
Okay.
And so, to give you an idea, to try to figure out how big space is, the Milky Way galaxy, which we're part of, is 100,000 light years wide. That means you're going 186,000 miles a second for 100,000 years to get from one end to the next end. That's one galaxy out of billions and billions of galaxies.
And we could be tiny compared to some of the others. Although we have a very good sized galaxy though.
We have a
compared to what we know of.
Right. We have a unique galaxy in the sense that it's a spiral galaxy. But I don't know that it's necessarily bigger or smaller than most galaxies.
We don't have a
there.
comparison, I guess.
Yeah. So for the arrogance involved to think that we're the only life in all.
Y'all stop being so damn arrogant out there. God.
I just don't think that it's a reasonable position to take. So
I agree.
Is there life outside? First off, we're going to find life in our own solar system. They're going to find it on the Jupiter's moon Europa or Neptune's moon Europa. It's 90% water. Like
life has to have water.
100% they're going to find
from what
life
we
there.
understand through our science that life as we know it has to have water.
Yes. Yeah. That is definitely a component of life. And so I think we'll find it there. I actually think we'll find the fossilized remains of at least microbial life on Mars. The more we research Mars. So the question about life isn't a problem. Yeah. Now, are they coming from, 25 light years away and they're just like visiting us? Okay, maybe, but then you have to explain the science behind how are they getting here? How are they traversing that space?
Well, I think my biggest question wouldn't be so much as how, because if they're 100 million years older than we are, technology, think of the technology we have, and we are freaking young. Mm-hmm. So say that they're 100 million years ahead of us, like their technology could be something we couldn't even imagine. My greatest question is, for what purpose? And I think we may have talked about this, or me and Dave may have talked about it.
You mean, why are they coming to visit us?
And I think it was Dave that hit on this, because I never thought about it. It's like, they're that advanced. Why do they come here?
Right.
What is it that they're looking to do? If you're an advanced race, if you think you're above somebody or smarter, there's one main thing that comes into most people's mind.
Right.
Is authority. Like, we're coming to enslave. We're coming to, and I could see,
that's how Hollywood is portrayed.
And maybe that's why I feel that way. But it does make some sort of sense. We don't even know if aliens are hostile, or if these other beings and other life forms on different planets, if they're hostile, if they're non-hostile. They grew up way different than we did. They evolved way different than we did.
Right.
There was no such thing as anger in or hostility in their programming. Who in the hell actually knows?
Maybe they're here beneficially to try to help us.
And I really believed in all of it. I believed in that. Something that's, we'll say a couple light years away. You got to remember, if they can travel this far, if they have the capability to travel that distance, then, you'd have to think they have cloaking capability. They have capabilities to stay. They could stay, on the other side of Mars, which is, basically across the street for them,
right,
where we could never even see them or know. And we think they're coming from 25 million light years away, but they're actually not. They're right there.
Yeah, I suppose so. I
just thought about that, by the way.
No. I don't disagree with what you're saying. I think that, so some people make the argument that we're so insignificant in our evolution and our resource potential in this planet and stuff like that, that why would they care about us or whatever?
Yeah, that was Dave's argument. Why would they care about us?
Why would they care about us? And then the way that people will make the argument is like, you pass an ant mound, but you don't stop and try to communicate with the ants or engage in the ants and all that.
That's a lie. I did. I tried it one time. I am not lying.
Right.
All right, so everybody else that's normal does not do that.
Yeah, no, but that's the argument. I kind of think that's a lazy argument.
I agree.
Because there are literally like thousands of people who've dedicated their life to the studies of ants.
Yeah.
Which would imply that even though we may view ants as inferior, we're still interested in them. Right?
Yeah.
As humans. So if there's an advanced civilization out there that's way beyond us, it doesn't mean they wouldn't still be interested in us.
I agree.
At least if only for research purposes.
Yeah. We may have a resource that they never knew about.
100%.
It may be biological. It may not even be biological.
I think about this all the time. It may be just some weird human shit we do that nobody else in the universe does. It seems improbable, but
they wipe their ass.
What if we're the only advanced civilization in the world that makes music?
Yeah.
Or not the world, but the universe. But what if that's just a uniquely human thing that no other advanced civilization has ever done? You'd have fucking aliens piling in around the block
for a rock concert
just to listen to us make music. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, the motivation behind why they would come here, I think it's sort of irrelevant. I'm more interested in
the tech.
Is it wormholes? Is it warp drives?
Yeah.
What are we doing with space-time so that they can get from one end of the universe to us? The intergalactic stuff is fascinating to me.
That it is. Do you have any personal we're going to talk about little gray aliens. We're going to talk about the aliens that everybody else knows to be aliens and spaceships.
Yeah.
Have you had any of those encounters or anything like that?
No, and I'm super jealous of anybody who's had it.
That's me.
I'm the type of, when you mentioned that you've had an experience, a contact, right?
Yeah.
I'm super excited to hear about that story. No, I haven't. I'm the asshole who stares in the sky hoping to see something.
I did for years after my first incident, man. It was crazy. So, all right, not crazy. Y'all remember this, but I'm gonna go with my story here. So this happened. I think it was about 19 years old. Then 19 or 20, and we were out at the Equalization Channel back in my hometown of San Angelo, and it had to be at least midnight. You know, we're just out there. It's where everybody underage drinkers went to go hang out in the middle of nothingness.
Yeah, that's the
spot. Go mudding,
yeah.
drink some beers.
Right.
And there was a total of 4 of us. It was me and 3 other buddies. And what was so crazy, where we were a little bit lower. There's a dam, and then on the other side was the road. So whenever you'd see cars come up, you'd see a light, or you see a motorcycle, you see a single light, and it comes up. Sure. Right on the other side of that, about a mile and a half away, is the airport. So, like, you had lights from the airport. I mean, you could always tell whenever a plane was landing, helicopters were around.
Right.
I mean, it's very hard for us to mistake the things that we know that fly in the sky.
You see a bunch of stuff in the sky normally.
Yeah.
And you've identified what those are.
Right. So we're sitting there in the back of the truck, and, we're watching people come in. We're waiting on a couple more buddies to show up, and, we just see these lights coming up over the dam. Well, we see a single light come up, and I was like, who's on a motorcycle coming out here? This is 4-wheelers and stuff like that.
Right.
This is 4x4 trucks. And a single light comes in, it just keeps rising over the dam. It just keeps rising. And I was like, oh, crap. I was like, it must be a helicopter or something. And it gets up there, and then it just stops in the sky. Like, it just sits there.
Like, how far are we talking? Like, could you hear it?
No, that was the thing. There was no noise.
But it would have been close enough to hear it if it were a helicopter? Like, what
possibly,
distance are we talking
I'm
about?
probably going to say, like, all right, so if it was a helicopter, you got to think that the airport was about a mile away.
Okay.
Mile and a half.
I got you.
So within that distance, and then, the distance up, of course.
Right.
So, I mean, it's not too far of a distance to notice, maybe a sound, especially if you don't have anything else going around you. We're out in the middle of nothing, so you can hear everything. We didn't hear any sound, but it was just a white light. And then it just started to move. It just started to hover kind of back and forth slowly. And then it darted back and forth really fast, like, instant speed. And then just took off, and it disappeared. Came right back, like 2 seconds later, came right back. Like,
so you don't see where it went, but it came back.
No, it came back.
Right.
It came back closer.
That's wild.
Came back closer, and it was just this bright light. And then I guess, I don't know if it rotated or if it, turned off lights, but then you could see, like, red, green, yellow, blue, like, different color lights on a side. And, at that point, because we saw it coming closer towards us, and one of my buddies was like, "We come in peace." Like, he was freaking out, man.
So
it was
instantly y'all were like UFO.
Yes, instantly. I was scared. I literally thought I was about to be taken that night, and I may have been. I may not even know it. Well, but it came close enough for us to see that it was a ship. We were actually able to see the outline of a saucer.
No kidding.
And it was nuts. And as soon as we saw it, just like that, gone again.
Yeah.
And we're like, holy crap. So that was my first experience when I was 19 years old.
Well, the reason I think that has a little bit of credibility is, so there was the Navy pilot, he's Captain Fravor. He was on Joe Rogan's podcast. Mm-hmm. He was the one that videotaped and encountered the Tic Tac off the coast of California. Oh, yeah. And he described the same thing, which was hovering like 5 feet over the water and then started darting back and forth.
Yeah.
And then in less than a second was 80,000 feet above the air. Like
instantaneous.
Movement. But the darting thing, like if you imagine...
Helicopters don't dart.
Right. Our bodies can't handle the G-forces of what you're describing and that happened. Required. Right. This is a serious, sober pilot. He was like an instructor at Top Gun. Yeah. Like, this is a real motherfucker. And he said, I saw it with my own eyes. I videotaped it. We have it on radar and stuff like that. And it's doing the same shit that you're describing.
Man, it was
That's
intense.
pretty exciting.
It was, man. From that day forth, like, I looked up in the sky, like, every night. I was like, oh, I'm gonna see something else.
Right.
Like I just want to go and check out your.
Oh wait,
spaceship.
I should have asked. How drunk were you at the time?
You know, and everybody always wants to bring that up. You know that like, oh y'all were drunk. The thing is that 4 people, even to this day, we will tell the story separately.
He's getting defensive.
I am.
Artie?
Because
what are we talking about?
Because people want to try to say that, like, and that's fine. It's skeptical. I get it. It sounds outrageous.
You have to ask all the questions, right?
Yeah, and we've been asked all the questions. You can separate us, and I guarantee all of our stories will line up the same even to this day. This happened when I was 19, 29. So what was that? 15 years ago? 16 years ago.
Right.
16 years ago, my story has never changed. Their stories have never changed.
That's a big part of it,
Yeah. I mean, and people always want to say, like, oh, y'all were drunk, and,
So you haven't said that you weren't drunk, so you definitely were
drunk.
Oh,
yeah, it's definitely. Okay, cool. I definitely was.
No, that's fine. Yeah. You can still see stuff. I get that. Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't.
I've never had
alcohol doesn't make you hallucinate.
I've never had a hallucinogenic experience on alcohol.
I mean, but then I've never drank absinthe either. So
I hear that shit's weak. I got a lot of experience with psychedelics, and
that's not in the top 10.
I hadn't heard that. That's very powerful.
All right, so my second experience.
All right.
Happened when I was probably about 26. I want to say 25, 26.
All right.
Just went through a bad breakup with my ex. I was in depression.
Right.
I ended up moving back home with my parents for a little bit, just like I didn't feel great. Yeah. And one night, I swear, like I felt like I was almost praying. I was tired of the pain. I literally was. I was just tired of the pain. I hated what happened. And, I basically was praying like to feel better. And it was so weird that in the middle of the night, I felt presences, I guess. I don't know, like multi-presence. Multi-beings around me. I felt long.
You had a feeling of this.
I had I could visually see. There was 5, and there were long, thin, more gray-like, the taller gray aliens that we always picture.
Sure.
Basically, like almost like an operation is going on. Like they're the doctors and whatnot. And I remember them trying to insert something. This is gonna get wicked, guys. All right, I've never told this story publicly like this. So, but they're trying to insert a chip or something into my brain.
Okay.
The first time that it happened, like it wasn't in the right spot. They kind of like I don't know, messed it. So they had to pull back out.
Okay.
And then go back in and put it. The chip or whatever. I don't know. Maybe I should go get like a MRI to see if there's a chip in my head.
That would be the first thing I would do. Yeah.
This happened, like 10 years ago, and I still haven't done it.
Serious. So you're you're in a table. There are 5 super tall
grays. No, I'm on the bed still.
You're on the bed. There are 5 tall grays. They're in Matrix style, inserting something in the back of your head. They fucked up the first time.
Yeah.
Had to start over again.
Yeah. Go. And so, like right after that, I heard something in the kitchen like rattling, and so I wake up instantly. Like as soon as I hear the rattle, I'll wake up, and there's nothing in the kitchen, and I go straight to the window of the kitchen, and I see a light, fucking flash. Gone, like just a flash of light.
Yeah,
caught it like right at the end, like if it was leaving.
Right.
And the rattling of just because of it taking off.
Sure.
So. I just walked back to my room, and like I wasn't distraught. I wasn't like freaking out. I was literally in a very calm, almost pleasant like mentality.
So did you feel more at peace with the breakup and stuff like that?
I totally did. And this is what's weird is that like it's almost like they answered my prayer. Like I was asking for it to be kind of like
those aren't aliens. Those are angels.
However you want to describe and call them, words are words.
I guess, yeah.
But how I visioned it, or how it was given to me as a vision, like it was very of what we would consider to be alien.
Yeah.
It wasn't the vision of winged angels coming.
I got you. Yeah.
It was definitely what I would consider and what you would consider and Artie would consider to be aliens and not angels. So it was.
I think you had that experience. If I'm being 100% honest.
Well, I don't want
your first story was more compelling because you had the 4 other people that saw it.
Yeah. Well, this was a self. Like I was asking for something. Like almost like selfishly,
Right.
And what was so crazy about it, and you can make up the whole story that, well, your brain configured this whole story for you to feel better because that's what you wanted, and
right.
And you can go down that rabbit hole all day long. The point that I'm making is that story to me is as real today as the day that it happened.
Well, and also, what's the advantage of
trying to
explain the science behind that? Right. So your experience is there was a alien presence that helped me process the grief over this relationship.
Yeah.
Right. And then some scientist comes in and was like, that's not actually what happened. These chemicals were interacting with these neurons. Doesn't fucking matter, dude.
Yeah.
Like, I processed it.
Yeah.
And this is a way cooler story of explaining how I was able to process that.
And see, and all of those arguments, like, no matter, those chemicals are always going to, I'm trying to think of the way to describe it. So, like, if you took mushrooms or hallucinogen or something like that, it reorganizes chemicals within your brain to basically have this hallucination. Now, it doesn't mean that this hallucination isn't so-called real, or that doesn't have a benefit to where you experience something that was real to you.
Right.
But those chemicals will, whether if they're self-induced, chemically induced to induce your other chemicals to react differently.
Right.
Like, it's always that reaction. So to me, it's almost like they cannot make that argument. I mean, because then me taking a pill is basically the same thing because you're reorganizing
Agreed.
my chemicals.
So a bit of argument for your anecdotal defense or whatever is the idea that perception is reality. What I've perceived is in fact real, right?
To you.
So
yes.
Right. But I'm saying,
yeah.
I experienced this, so it is actually real to me.
Right.
This did actually happen. So, if you're on mushrooms and your periphery starts to wobble on you and you're getting heightened colors and stuff like that, you're perceiving it that way. That means it is real to you at that moment. I always use the example
I like how you said at that moment, because to me, like, whenever you take stuff like that,
it can be also independent of somebody else.
Correct.
I'm saying I'm experiencing reality this way.
Yeah. So if we both took shrooms, just because you're experiencing
100%.
it that way doesn't mean that I'm going to experience it that way.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
I always like to use the example of, they say dogs are colorblind. It's not entirely true. Some are, some aren't. Some have shades of color. But use the concept of like a dog is colorblind, right? That means that a dog, and every dog's reality is a reality where rainbows don't exist. Because they can't see the rainbow in the sky.
What's the gray bridge?
And, Artie, on top of it, they would never even think to imagine a rainbow being there in the sky. Like, it wouldn't
because
even...
they don't have color.
Because that's not
their reality.
In their reality, dogs don't have rainbows, right?
Dogs don't have rainbows.
So I do understand. I do understand this idea that, like, your own personal perspective. I've had wild sort of revelatory experiences engrossed in my personality on psychedelics.
Yeah.
But that was all inside my own fucking head.
Right.
And it is neurons and chemicals and stuff like that. So I think perception is reality, and what you experience is what you experienced. And there's no amount of me trying to be a skeptic to your personal experiences with aliens to, like, make you doubt what you
because there's not enough fact of if aliens exist or not, really, to say, other than the idea that, of course, what we went back to, that there's one planet for like quadrillions of
every single star has at least one planet,
which means that there's life out there. So we can say mathematically that it has to exist, but with no physical evidence.
Right. And they always say, like, they use what's called the Fermi paradox, which is, if there's all this life teeming in the universe, why have we not seen it? Because we're dumb. Like, we just haven't gotten smart enough to detect it,
You know what's also amazing that I found? I'm trying to think of who I was listening to. They were wanting to talk about alien species because, to believe it or not, the octopus is like freaky alien. Like, it is way beyond, like, it's the amount of genes that it has.
Yeah,
like it's doubled than human genes.
Right.
Like, they can create different colors, different patterns. They can go into shapes. They're intelligent. They can figure things out. Like, they are literally the most alien thing that lives on this planet. And people don't think to look at home for aliens.
Yeah, it's wild. Like, just go into the ocean. You'll see wild shit in the ocean.
You go into the forest. You see animal. We just like, oh yeah, this planet was inhabited with animals. And so, like, that just means, like, they're not really alien.
Well,
I mean, I'm kind of confused about that because there's weird shit.
On top of that, so you know the concept panspermia.
Mm-hmm.
It's the idea that something hits like the planet, and then the resources that hit it creates life and grows and stuff. That's so. People have made the argument that's how we have life on Earth. I think it's probably accurate. I think that's probably what happened. But some people hear like alien or octopus is alien and think that it came from a different world.
Right.
I think that it evolved on Earth, but there's some weird things about the octopus, like it's we can trace back our evolution pretty easily,
right?
Genetically. Octopus is weird. When you go into its genetics, it doesn't make a lot of sense, like where the obvious evolutionary jumps were with that animal.
And maybe they were exposed to something.
Oh, you think like Godzilla style, like gamma rays
never
and
know,
shit
man.
like that?
You never know.
Could be. Yeah,
I mean, you gotta think the ocean's huge. What falls into the ocean? We don't know.
Yeah, who knows?
I mean, there could have been something that was alien that fell into the ocean that gave it its.
Well, they even say like some people believe like in I believe it was called Chariots of the God.
I love Chariots of the God.
Yeah, Stitchin says that there was an advanced humanoid alien civilization that came down and then basically propagated with hominids at the times, Neanderthals and the such, to create a slave race of workers that would then mine gold because the aliens want gold.
The Anunnaki.
The Anunnaki. And so it's kind of a dumb story. But that idea that I think David even mentioned it, was that we see a doubling in the size of the human brain in 2 million years. And evolutionarily speaking, that's wild. Like there's some really weird, like how can we explain that, right? There's a couple ways to explain it, I suppose. There's the stone ape theory that hominids were
like the stone ape theory.
Hominids were taking psychedelics like mushrooms and stuff like that,
or any type of fungus, really.
Right.
Yeah,
and that expanded their mind and they became smarter or whatever.
If you don't understand the stone ape theory,
you should definitely check it out.
Terence McKenna.
Yeah.
It's about how and if you don't. Fungus is amazing. Go do some research on fungus, and you'll definitely understand that. Like that's going to be a whole nother topic that we should talk about.
I'd love to talk about it. Yeah.
Sorry, but
so some people will attribute, like Terence McKenna, the warp speed evolution of what we think of as Homo sapiens, human beings, they attribute it to stoned ape theory. I think that's kind of silly, but it's fun.
A cool theory, though.
You know that there have been animals that have tripped balls out there just eating randomly, right? So it's kind of fun. Probably not likely. Most anthropologists will tell you that it's when we started cooking our food, because what that did from eating it from a raw versus cooking it on a fire, it becomes a more nutrient dense food once you cook the meat versus eating it raw.
Really?
Yeah. So they think that like huge protein punch that we were getting with cooked food is what aided in the growth of our brain. I think that's probably more accurate, but who knows? I'm down to believe whatever until it's proved. You know, I'm open for whatever.
Oh man, yeah, I love Terence McKenna, man.
Dennis McKenna, his brother, is a brilliant man too.
Yeah. I didn't listen to too much of him.
He's a smart man. Yeah, they're both science nerds. They got really into psychedelics, and so.
Yeah, Terence McKenna's called the psychonaut.
Yeah, he is.
Because he takes a lot of psychedelics, and he's like an astronaut because he's out of his mind. You know, got it now. All right, there we go.
Yeah.
Psychonaut.
He had, if I remember correctly, Terence McKenna was arrested, and an angry mob of like drug-fueled like cultists of his like broke him out of jail.
No way! I haven't even heard that story.
I think that's true. I'm pretty sure that's accurate. Yeah.
Man, we got to get you like your first like alien encounter.
God,
like I feel like that's got to be an accomplishment.
I wish that was
for people.
something that I could just order on eBay. Like I definitely want to do that. I want to see him. I want to talk to him.
Heck, Artie, are you down? You want to go like, hey, you know what? We can go and like get some like laser pointers. You know, like I used to do that back in the day and try to like did he?
Yeah, 100%. Whatever it takes. Man. Yeah, I want to see it. Yeah.
I know Artie's down, man.
I was watching this guy. I can't remember his name. He was recently on Rogan's podcast, and he tells the story of an alien encounter where he's abducted. And once they see the object, he was in his car, he jumped out and ran towards it. That was his instinct, right? I need to find out what this is, right?
Impressive.
I'd like to believe that would be me. I want to be that. I feel like enthusiastic to see.
I'm coming back home.
Yeah, I just want to see it. Like, what's going on? You know, what are y'all doing over there?
I mean, we could also. I mean, this is another weird theory. You know, like our creators would be what we'd consider to be alien,
maybe
in a sort.
Yeah,
and they're just coming in and checking on their product or their
totally
children.
Could be. Yeah,
you know, like hey, like yeah. I went and created this on the other side of town, and I just gotta go check on it. See, they're destroying each other.
Yeah.
All right, new invention. That's the human race.
Yeah, and we're not going to talk about religion today, but like
that's gonna be a good one.
That is the big jump for most people, which is if you could, you might be able to convince me that there's a prime mover, demi-force overseeing God, like we're a petri dish and aliens invented us.
Yeah.
But
who invented aliens?
But and beyond that, that doesn't mean that the aliens care about us.
Oh no,
like at all. Like
I mean,
like,
we
you
create
haven't been
things
able
that
to
we
prove
don't.
that.
Yeah, we create things that we don't care about all the
100%.
time. I mean, we even hang out with people we don't care about.
Dude, more so than I'd like to admit.
Right.
Although I will say, given the opportunity, Artie, you probably haven't had this yet, but Dustin was nice enough to invite me to his place. We were hanging out a couple of nights ago. So he's got a nice, beautiful house with his wife and stuff like that. I thought that was very nice. Like just being like, hey, let's hang out. Yeah. I was like, and then when we showed up, you were like, we didn't think you were going to show up. I was like, you invited me.
Diana betted that y'all weren't going. My wife is like a 4-beer person that gets drunk, but then she's on number 9.
Yeah, she's
like she was drunk
date.
at number 4.
Yeah,
but she's on number 9, so this is going great.
Yeah. And actually, we had fun. And by the way, I showed Addison, my daughter Addison, shout outs.
Oh,
I showed her Aurora running with the Wolves, and she loved it. I was like, because we're all about finding like artists who have unique sounding voices.
Oh man,
and that chick's got a wild voice.
Aurora running with the Wolves.
Yeah,
we're gonna
put
her out.
Song.
It's if you like to hear something different voice, it is definitely something amazing you should check out.
As soon as I got her, I hung out with you that week. The next week I got her, and I was like, y'all got to check this out.
Man, it's amazing. Great times. All right, what's next?
I don't know. What else do you want to talk about?
Man, where else can we lead to? Well, we went from the aliens, Terrence McKenna. You know what? Let's go. You know a little bit about fungus?
Yeah, we can talk about fungus.
Man, fungus.
Fungi.
All right, so fungi.
Yeah.
Fungi. I found out, and I'm trying to think of the name of the experiment. Was it the London subway system, and I was hoping you knew this.
Okay.
I'd have to research it, but maybe Artie can do it for me here in a minute. But it was about fungus that rerouted the London subway system in a better way. So they created like basically a smaller version of how it was all mapped out. And because fungus are very
super smart,
very, very smart, and they can route. They're almost like you would say that there is an intelligence to it.
It certainly operates with an intelligence.
They were able to actually map it out better than what the engineers had actually did.
So my guess is, I haven't seen this experiment, but my guess is they built a model of the London subway system, and then they allowed the mycelium of the fungus to move in its own most efficient patterns.
Most efficient.
Then they created efficient patterns that way. That's fascinating.
And I think that is the number one key with fungus, is that it's most efficient.
Right.
Like they always do everything in the most efficient. Like even whenever other funguses around plants, like they create underground networks. Like if you didn't know this, fungus will connect with other plants, other trees, just everything around them, and they create a network where they communicate to each other and they send each other nutrients. They help other plants around them survive when that plant is also helping them survive.
Right.
But the greatest thing that I love about fungus is what I kind of really wanted to talk about with like the psychedelic mushrooms, because there's only like 100. It's like a handful out of all the species of fungi out there. There's literally like only a handful that are psychedelic.
Right. Yeah, and to varying degrees.
Yeah, and
like, some are super potent, and others
are minimal.
Like what was we were talking about this the
Amanita Muscaria.
Yeah.
That's the red one with the little white cat.
Yeah.
Super Mario.
It's the it's the image you think of on every like Grateful Dead shirt and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like anybody who's trying to push the narrative of I trip balls on mushrooms, they use the image of that mushroom.
Yeah.
But that mushroom's actually not that potent.
Right.
And by the way, as I understand it, to really get the effect, you have to like reindeer eat this mushroom,
and then you have to eat their poop.
No, you have to drink their piss.
Oh, that's right.
You got to drink the piss of reindeer to trip balls. Thank you, I'm good. Like mushrooms taste bad enough as it is.
Yeah, they do.
But to psychedelic mushrooms, an article I saw recently that I thought was crazy was a guy made mushroom tea and then injected it into his veins.
No way.
Because he couldn't trip hard enough just eating the mushrooms.
Oh my God.
And fungus grew in his blood. So your point of like,
what did it do? Did it like reroute, to make it more efficient?
No.
Oh my God, I'm gonna start doing it.
It was actually the opposite. What happened was he had almost instant organ failure and had to go into like surgery and shit. It wasn't pretty.
It wasn't.
But the point that I think is interesting is you can shoot mushrooms into your veins, and mushrooms are like, we're gonna make this shit work.
Yeah,
we're gonna reproduce and survive in this environment now.
Yeah. And
that's
I think
how wild that is.
Mushrooms are like their nature is freaking crazy.
Just take more mushrooms, people. Like, don't shoot that shit up in your veins. Like, there's plenty. 5 grams will send you to the moon. You're good.
But what's crazy about the point that I was getting to is that if they're about efficiency, and rerouting things to where they work, the most efficient for what is going on.
Right.
Think about like what it does for your brain. Like that's why you're able to, taste music, smell words, smell colors.
Mm-hmm.
It's rerouting things to connect in a more logical sense to where like you can take data from. All right, so not just knowing a color, but knowing what it tastes like and what it smells like now gives you a lot more information on how to adapt to a surrounding. Because things that are a certain color of red,
right,
usually have pretty close to a certain same smell, like within a certain degree.
Okay.
You most of the time when you think of red, you think of sweet, and most of like strawberries taste sweet, raspberries taste sweet, or smell sweet, apples. So this is my opinion because I have nothing to back this up, and I just thought about it now. But now, if you have more data available to where you don't have to use 2 separate things, like sight, smell, or 3 different things, and taste, because once you taste something, that might be poisonous.
Could be, yeah. So a lot of that is
sounded good though.
No. I do agree. So you said red is always associated food-wise with sweet.
Well, for me.
Well, for me, I think of red meat.
Well,
which is, by the way, I enjoy your sausage that I made. So.
Yeah. He brought me and Artie a gift today.
That's right.
For being on the show. Which everybody
that's from
else.
A deer I just shot. Well, I didn't shoot it. My buddy and I went hunting 2 weeks ago. We made some venison sausage for you. I hope you like it. Yeah.
So Dave, you suck as a guest.
They knew that already from the content, but like where's the gift for the guys? You gotta take care of the guys. It was awesome.
So yeah, that's a lesson to everybody else that's ever going to be on.
The point I was trying to make is that I don't think of red as sweet or savory because I can see it on both sides. Right. But it is interesting that a smell or a sound can take you back in time.
Yeah,
like can put you like. I remember once I was in high school, I walked the corner around home ec classroom, mm-hmm. and I was instantly like 12 years old in my grandma's kitchen. It was wild.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, I hadn't smelled this at all, since then or whatever. So, yeah, I think it's interesting having 2 different sort of data points to influence you.
Yeah, and I think that, well, I'll put it to you this way. I was watching a show. I'm trying to think of it. I think it was on HBO. There's this documentary of this guy that goes out and he does a whole bunch of research on hallucinogenics and their properties. With how LSD started. Like, I mean, he even talked to the guy that like originated LSD that did it big time here in the United States.
Right.
After it got shut down from who are those people that used to use it? They sit here and talk all the time and You go to therapy. What are they called?
Like psychiatrists?
There you go. Psychiatrists used to use it all the time back in the day because it opened people up. So when that got shut down, this guy went underground and made his own LSD and whatnot. Right. But the whole point of the show was to show like how it affects the human brain and how it affects you. And the best description that I ever heard. So whenever your neurons are firing, you just think of like a bed of snow where over and over, if you ski in the same path, you create a rut. So you're always once it's so deep, you can't get out of that rut. You had to have fresh snow fall, and now maybe you can create a new neural pathway.
New path, yeah.
So taking hallucinogenics was described in this way of where it's like a new fresh coat of powder coming down to where now, like this neuron's firing to a different neuron now. That's why you get, smells and tastes all confused with words and music and everything else and different visuals and all of that, because now they're not traveling the same neural pathway, but you get a huger data input because it's like, it's not only knowing this one thing anymore. It's going here, it's going here, it's going here. This one's going there. And they found it to be slightly, well, I won't say the word slightly, I'm trying to remember the percentage of people whenever they did the study that performed better overall. This was done for like a 10-year period of time of like twice a year of somebody being on psychedelics.
Yeah, let's go. Sign me up.
And it doesn't have to, you don't do psychedelics every day. You don't get,
it's not recreational.
It's not recreational. You don't get addicted to them. There's no study to show that there is an addiction to doing psychedelics. You do them once or twice a year, and their ability to learn faster.
Yeah.
Every time. Faster. As opposed to a 10-year study with the people that didn't take any type of hallucinogenics, where they just learned, they literally learned at the same pace. It never grew.
Yeah, there's amazing research being done right now. I think I told you to check out that Lex Friedman podcast. Yeah. I forget the guy's name, but that's what he does.
I wish I could name it.
He is a researcher that deals with psychedelics and what are the impacts on these groups of people.
Yeah.
But we've seen, I believe it was MDMA helps with PTSD. Yeah. Mushrooms help with terminal illness. When you're in a place where you're grappling with the finality of your own life, they've shown people have died more gracefully and at a higher rate of peace.
Yeah.
After having microdosed on mushrooms for like a week before they died and shit like that. So I think that there can be medicinal good purposes. My question to you is, there's clearly a lot of people that associate a spiritual component to not to mushrooms, but psychedelics in general. But you just gave a very clinical sort of explanation of what's happening in the brain, right?
Right.
So do you think it's wrong for them to kind of speak to it in those terms when we know it's just science? It's just natural.
No, I don't, because I still believe in the spiritual sense of it.
Yeah, but you don't think that those experiences happen. I'll give you an example. So I smoked DMT recently, and I didn't blast off and talk to the aliens or anything like that. But everybody talks about having sort of an interaction with an entity, a group of people, right? And I just don't think I took enough, honestly.
Right.
But I was up for the challenge, and but I think that I would still know that I wasn't actually talking to some sort of entity.
So we differ, because I think it's more of a, like when you use the word blast off, like it kind of sends, in my opinion, yes, like we understand, we know what's going on here. We know that neurons are firing here, this is connecting here, but what you can't tell somebody, and that we have zero evidence of, is what that relates to outside of this. Like how we always said, like, if it's in your mind, then it's your reality.
Right.
So for me, like, I still believe in the spiritualness of, psychedelics, of what you could, because if I were to do any psychedelics, it would be for an intent. It would be for a purpose. It would be, to get through something, because that's what they're there to help us do, is to get through things, not to just sit there and like get all fucked up and, just try to blank out of your existence. No, they're trying to help you cope and understand your existence. And I think you can, if you go about it that way, whether if they're here for that or not. whatever your intent is what you're going to get back out of it.
I agree with that.
So I always go in and I will continue to use the spiritualness side of it, because that always means that I'm going in for the intent of my well-being.
I think you misunderstand what I'm asking.
Okay.
It's cool to use like spirituality as the language to describe the experience that you're having.
Yeah.
What I'm asking you is, do you actually think that you're talking to this parallel entity?
Yes.
See, I disagree with you.
Yeah, because I think we're lifted. And this
it's okay. It's okay to describe it that way, but no.
But this is
it's all happening in your head, dude.
Well, everything, all of this is happening in your head.
I guess, yeah.
Well,
maybe
there's not a guessing to it. I mean, without this, none of this actually exists.
No, but I'm saying outside of the simulation theory, you are an individual person. I'm an individual person. We're experiencing it.
I experience it as like my consciousness actually leaves and goes into this other realm where it is other energy-like beings, other consciousness.
Right. That's how they describe it.
Yeah. And yes, I do. I do believe in it that way. I don't see how I could believe it in any other way. And I know, and I understand what your question was now, and and I'm not knocking the fact that you don't believe in it that way. That you know it's all in your head. But
I think that's more likely to be true.
And I think that the reason why is that the first way that I saw it was that way. It was the first way I experienced it was that way. So
yeah, it doesn't mean it can't still be helpful.
No,
I just don't feel the need. I don't feel the need to attach.
You don't have to
all
define
the spiritual
everything. Yeah.
Other stuff. Yeah.
You don't have to define something for it to actually help you. It doesn't have to be defined as this or that. Yeah. And like as humans, we tend to want to like pinpoint like why is it doing like. I'll tell you right now, there's a lot of shit in the world that we do not understand how in the hell it works. It just works. Right. It just works. You don't have to pinpoint and say and give it a name and give it a legal description and give it a definition and write a paragraph about it and there's a book and there's a movie. You don't have to do any of that crap for it to do what it already does.
Yeah, but the thing is that it doing that thing that you're describing it's not supernatural because we can observe it and we're seeing it.
Yeah.
We now know it's just part of the natural universe is what I'm saying. What we're talking about is a supernatural aspect.
Your definition of supernatural is different than mine then.
Yeah.
Because I see supernatural as natural. We call it supernatural because it's more of the natural things that we usually don't understand, where we don't have a science to really entertain the idea to show the proof of it. So to me, it's not that it's like, ooh, supernatural. It's like, no, it's a supernatural. It's something that is studied that's not quite understood exactly how it works.
If you're talking about a peer-reviewed study that sees some shit that I'll give you a perfect example. We were talking about aliens earlier. There is a guy who just came out with a book, super serious scientist, professor, who, you remember that, I think it was called Oumuamua. It was that thing that flew into our solar system.
Yeah, the long,
Yeah, the long thing that flew in our solar system that was
it on a northern?
It was interstellar, meaning it wasn't in our it didn't originate from our solar system. It came out of our solar system and did a drive-by by us. Yeah. This guy did a lot of science-y shit with it, right? And it noticed things about it, like the fact that the gravity of the sun didn't change. It was moving away from the gravity of the sun. And so what this guy is positing is that this was our first evidence of aliens, right? Because it was a craft that was physically moving off of against the...
It was going against nature.
Right, exactly, right? That's wild. Yeah, that evidence is wild, and it forces you to look into it and be like, okay, how do I feel about this? What sort of experiments can we run to verify this one way or the other? I'm okay with wild science.
Yeah,
just show me the fucking evidence for it. You know.
I agree, and to be honest, like I don't believe that the word supernatural actually truly exists in the form that people think of it. Because if it's able to be done, that means that it was naturally here. Right, the capabilities of anything, if you take witchcraft, like to its greatest level, and people would call that supernatural. I'm like, no, somebody just understands an ability of the natural world of how it works, and they understood a certain way that they can manipulate and use it. It doesn't make it supernatural; it just makes it natural.
So I kind of agree with you on that. So with like witchcraft, right? If a person could do a spell that invokes whatever light, right? And they can
God
do
said,
it
"Let there
light.
be light," and look what happened.
If that person can tell this spell, and then light shows up, and they can do it every single time, it no longer is supernatural.
Right,
It's now just natural in our universe, and we just don't understand the science behind it.
Correct.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, and that's how I agree.
If you're going to claim a virgin birth, and there's never been an example of a virgin birth before, and no
it's
evidence
never happened again,
that's supernatural.
So there's probably a handful of stories in our human existence that have what would classify as supernatural, and I think that was a great one. Virgin Mary. Like, I don't think there's another story. Is there another story, Artie, that you know of?
Well, there were previous gods before Jesus who were born of virgin birth, like Horus, the Egyptian god.
Yeah.
He was born of a virgin birth. That happened 3,000 years before Jesus.
But we don't hear about that one.
Well, you can hear about it if you research it. Yeah.
You got to know the research. I mean,
yeah, we can talk about religion another time.
I can't wait to do that one.
I'm gonna roast some people next time, but but yeah, that's if you can actually observe it in the natural universe, it's no longer supernatural. It's just natural that we don't understand.
Yeah.
If you're claiming some bullshit that can't be observed, can't be reproduced, there is no empirical evidence of, then that is supernatural, and that's cool if you want to believe in it. Yeah. I'm down for you to believe in whatever you want.
Like chakras.
Chakras, crystals.
You do not hate on my crystals.
Like what is it called? The Zodiac, or stuff like that. Like
you can believe in all the same.
You can believe it. Yeah, you can believe in that. Yeah, because we both come from sort of analytical, data-driven sort of place.
I come from the other side of the tracks where I find it more fun and fascinating to believe in the things that really. I mean, you can't explain them away necessarily. You can downgrade them, but then, like on my side, I can't explain why either. And I find more fascination and more drive to want to know something, experience things through that nature. It's kind of like they're just stuck in the middle. They're not on this side. They're not on that side. Right. They can't be disproven. They can't be proven. There's nothing that shows positive or negative about it. It's just what people believe for some storytelling.
Listen. One of the great things about us living in America is this idea that we can believe and say whatever we want, right? So long as what you believe doesn't affect my life negatively or somebody else's life negatively, assalamu alaikum, do whatever you want, But like once if you want to say, okay, this is what I believe, and now we're going to start changing laws over that becomes an issue. That's all, because a belief is basically.
You're about to get into politics.
No, we don't have to get into politics, but like people will define faith as.
They created laws through the faith. Yeah,
like belief in the unknown or unseen.
Yeah.
Some people will define faith as the willful suspension of critical thinking. And that's kind of where I come from. That's the side I come from.
I'm on the first side. Faith
totally cool.
is something, believing is something that is not yet seen.
Totally good. That's totally fine. So long as what you believe, like if you force me to spend, 6 times a day, I got to acknowledge all my chakras, that becomes a law in my life because you believe in chakras, I'm going to have a problem with that.
I think forcefully doing anything is actually a negative, even if it was meant to be a positive. So
could be, yeah.
It's actually, I'm reading a book where I got this at. I was reading a book that my stepdaughter got me for Christmas, which was amazing because she picked out a book for me for one.
Yeah.
And then it was like tailored right to me.
I love it.
And she picked it up, she read the back of it, and she was like, this is exactly like Dustin. Yeah. And the title of it is called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a hashtag, exclamation point, another symbol, and the word is fuck, by the way.
Yeah. I almost bought that because you showed it to me at your house.
That is by far one of the most interesting, and it is very easy to read. I mean, it does use the F word a lot in it, so if you don't like the F word, don't read it. I mean, there's
or
60,
watch this podcast. I've said it a lot. So.
There's 67 times on one page where it says the word fuck. So
yeah.
But what he got to is even if you are trying to do something in good faith, in a positive way, but forcing yourself to do it, that still turns into a negative. Accepting that you are shitty at something actually has more positive effect than trying to force yourself to fix something that you know you are shitty at. Right. It's acceptance. You can move forward with your life now.
Yeah.
And I found some truth to that theory that there's like a weight lifted off you. There's stress that's gone. You're not struggling trying to make something happen. I mean, everybody's freaking human.
Yeah, stressing out.
It's just it's crazy. So don't force it. And we'll talk a little bit more about it on the God and Religion podcast. But and to me, it kind of falls almost in that same category where there's a lot of people. Now, there are people that do go to church that do have a religious belief that they accept a true acceptance of it. And there are people that actually go in a forceful...
I think most people are that way, honestly. I think most people have an honest, they honestly believe in what their faith is.
I think they
may not
at the
live
beginning
the life that their religious text tells them to do. But I think that
the people that
the good Christians I know are good Christians.
But the people that try to force everything, like they try to be exact, right. Or like whenever you first get into it, pretty much like whenever you're first finding faith,
right.
And you're first finding religion, of how you're going to try to believe, and you're trying to force things onto it. Like it doesn't come out in such a positive atmosphere rather than just letting it happen, letting it be, accepting that like, hey, I'm a sinner, accepting the fact like, hey, I messed up, I've done some really bad things in my life. I'm going to move forward from here,
right?
Rather than trying to fix every mistake that's there in front of you, or trying to fix every person that comes in front of you, or trying to make amends for all the bad crap that you've done in your life. Like you're never going to catch up. Bottom line, you're not going to catch up. Just accept that you are a human being. Accept the fact that you can do better, and accept the fact that you're just going to, live your life. Stop trying to live it from the past and making decisions based on your past.
Yeah. I look at religion more in.
I use it as an example, and I probably shouldn't use it.
No. I think what you said is good. I think most people are religious because they fear the end of their own consciousness, which is kind of what I wanted to talk to you about.
Oh yeah.
And then they can't stand the idea that they can never speak to a loved one.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of where it falls in.
Yeah. And I want to jump into that. We're gonna take a 1 second time out to get some more coffee real quick. So
cool. Can I use the restroom?
We're gonna take this is the second time. Dave was the first one to ever be like,
I know.
Can we take a piss break? So now we're gonna take a piss break.
This
Be right
coffee
back.
is so good.
So we are back from getting coffee and taking our piss break.
Yeah.
We are going
Glad I made it to a piss break. All right. You didn't think that shit was going to happen today. All right.
We're going to continue on with the what was it?
I want to know your thoughts about the origin of consciousness. Like, what is consciousness, and
how did it come about?
And specifically, I'll frame it in this way. So there's two views of consciousness. Consciousness is either the byproduct of the physical operation of your brain. And when your brain dies, like when you die and your brain dies, consciousness is now over. Or some people believe your brain is simply a receptor to a consciousness that's outside of your body.
Agreed.
And it's more of like a satellite that's receiving a signal. So if the radio tower is destroyed, the signal still exists and the consciousness still goes on. So what is your thought on that?
Mine is my belief is actually on the second one.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm not
outside of the physical body.
Yeah, it's outside of the physical body.
Right.
It takes a physical body for consciousness to exist.
Okay.
To have these experiences.
But it doesn't take a physical body for it to continue to exist.
Correct. Now, how it exists outside of that, we have no fucking idea.
No.
There's no way to. No one's ever came back, and if any type of energy, because all right, so to break it down, the second way that he explained it is that we're basically like a signal coming through that would be like energy, which I believe that we are energy that is beamed into a.
Yeah, Dave didn't like that.
Yeah, no, he hates it.
Much, no.
What type of energy are you talking about?
Yeah.
Dave, I can't tell you. It's a belief. I just know this. I feel like.
I think when you say energy, you mean like the spirit, the soul, kind of stuff. Like that.
Which would once again he wants to say like what type of energy is that? Well, it's electrical energy. It's light energy. There's lots of different energies that course through our body.
Right.
So, all right, so back to the topic that this energy is more or less, in a sense, beamed into our bodies,
right.
And that's what gives us our experience. Otherwise, it would be almost like zombie. Like there'd be, with a body with no consciousness, it would be considered like, in my idea, like a zombie. So to have an experience, you'd have to have consciousness. To have consciousness, it has to have a place to go. It has to have a signal to receive. Our brains become the signal within this body to be able to take that information and convert it into what we perceive to be reality.
Well, so I'm going to push back a little bit because, like, the argument that naturalists will make about the consciousness simply just being a byproduct of the physical brain is people who get in car accidents and then they become like, they damage their brain to their point in their vegetative state, and now they have no memories, they have no personality. The what we think of consciousness from the outside, they're not showing us any of that. So they would make the argument that clearly consciousness is connected to the brain because once we've destroyed the brain in this example, they no longer are conscious.
So was that something against me or for me? Because it works on both. Because the signal is no longer being received if you did damage the brain.
Well, see, but that's the catch-22.
Yeah.
Either the brain is the steam engine and consciousness is steam, and if you destroy that train, there is no more steam. Or the brain is a radio tower.
So either way, when you destroy it, you can't figure out.
Well, if you destroy the radio tower, then the signal still exists out in the air.
So you'd have to figure out a way to be able to catch that signal.
So you believe that it is outside. By the way, most people who believe in like a heaven or a hell or something like that or even like Hindus who believe in like reincarnation believe in this idea. I don't agree. No. I think it's simply your consciousness ends when you're, because my thing is like people will say like what is it going to be like after you die? I think it's going to be a lot like it was before I was born.
You have no, you know what?
I think it's going to feel exactly the same. Artie.
You know who said that's the best?
Me.
Alan Watts.
Like, who's Alan Watts?
Oh my God! If you don't know who, all right. So all of you that don't know who Alan Watts is, you like the conversations we're having, go and check out Alan Watts.
I definitely will.
He's a philosopher.
Yeah.
And that is actually one of his arguments. And from what Artie was saying earlier about religion of how fear plays a big basis in how our decisions are made and whatnot.
Yeah.
And the fear that people jump into religion is the fear of not being here. The fear of absence. Mm-hmm. And just like how you were born, you had no clue